Welcome to Jhonna, Unfiltered. My name is Jhonna, and a quick reminder before we start. I am not a financial expert, not a banker, and not a professional advisor. This is my personal learning diary. I share my research because I'm curious about these patterns, and I hope you are too. What I am sharing here is based on observation, stories, and common experiences that many people in the Philippines can relate to. Think of this as a learning diary, something to reflect on, and maybe even question in your own life. Now, let's talk about something that almost every Filipino knows very well, even if they don't talk about it openly: debt. In the Philippines, debt is not just a financial issue. It is part of everyday life. For many families, borrowing money is not a choice anymore. It becomes a way to survive. When income is not enough, people don't always have savings to fall back on, so they look for help wherever they can find it. One of the oldest systems is something called Paluwagan. It sounds simple. A group of people agrees to put in money every week or every month. Then each member takes turns getting the full amount. No bank, no interest, just trust. For example, if 10 people each contribute 1,000 pesos, one person gets 10,000 pesos in a cycle. On paper, it looks helpful. And for many, it really is, especially for people who do not have access to formal loans. But the problem starts when life gets unpredictable. If someone loses their job or suddenly cannot continue paying, the whole group gets affected. There is no legal protection. Everything depends on trust. And when money and trust mix, relationships can easily break. Another thing people do a lot is borrow from friends or family. This is very normal in Filipino culture. People don't just borrow from banks, they borrow from people they know. There is even a common saying that goes like this: it is hard to lend money, but it is even harder to collect it back. Because once money enters a relationship, everything changes. People feel shy to ask for payment. Others feel guilty to remind them. And slowly, silence builds tension. In many households, this kind of debt is not just about emergencies. It becomes part of daily life. Tuition fees, hospital bills, rent, even food on the table, everything can become a reason to borrow. And then there are salary loans. This is very common among workers. The idea is simple. You borrow money based on your future salary, and when payday comes, part of your income automatically goes to repayment. At first, it feels like a solution. But what actually happens is a cycle. Your salary arrives, but it is already gone before you even hold it. Then you borrow again just to survive until the next payday. Slowly, your future income is already spent before it even arrives. This is what people call a debt cycle. And once you are inside it, it is very hard to break out because you are always chasing your next paycheck. Now, let's look at something more modern: credit cards. Credit cards are often seen as a sign of financial stability. People think having one means you are doing well. But in reality, it can become one of the easiest traps if not handled carefully. What usually happens is this: people use credit cards for groceries, emergencies, or sometimes lifestyle spending. Then they pay only the minimum amount every month. The rest of the balance stays and interest quietly grows. The problem is interest is not loud. It does not feel urgent at first. But over time it builds up. A small purchase can turn into months or even years of payment. And in a country where income is often limited and expenses are rising, credit card debt becomes very hard to escape once it starts. There is also something deeper: the social side of debt. In Filipino culture, there is a strong value called utang na loob, or debt of gratitude. It means when someone helps you, you feel a lifelong responsibility to return the favor. This is beautiful in many ways, but it can also become pressure. Sometimes people feel forced to help others financially, even if they themselves have no money. Some even borrow just to fulfill obligations to family or relatives. There is also pakikasama, or the need to fit in socially. This is why people sometimes spend on birthdays, fiestas, or gatherings even when they cannot afford it. Because saying no can feel rude, and looking like you cannot afford it can feel shameful. So, debt is not always about poor financial decisions. Sometimes it is about emotional pressure, family expectations, and social survival. There are also real economic reasons behind all of this. Low income, Unstable jobs, high cost of living, medical emergencies, and lack of savings all play a big role. When there is no financial safety net, borrowing becomes the only option. And when this repeats month after month, it creates a pattern. Income comes in, bills get paid, debts get paid, and then money runs out again. Then the cycle repeats. For many families, it feels like starting over every payday. No real progress, just survival. But debt does not only affect money, it affects people. It creates stress in relationships. It causes arguments in families. It leads to anxiety about the future. And sometimes, it delays dreams like buying a house, saving for education, or building stability. There is also the mental weight, the feeling of being stuck, the feeling that no matter how hard you work, you are always behind. But at the same time, there is another side to this story. Because despite everything, Filipino communities are strong. People still help each other. There is still trust in systems like Paluwagan. There is still generosity, even in hard times. There is still a willingness to support family, even when it hurts. That is the complicated truth. Debt culture is not just about bad habits. It is also about survival, connection, and responsibility. So, honestly, the question here is not just why people borrow money. The deeper question is how systems, education, and opportunities can improve so people do not have to rely on debt just to live a normal life. Because at the end of the day, most people do not want to be in debt forever. They just want enough stability to breathe, to plan, and to live without constant financial pressure. Now I want to ask you something real. In your opinion, what is the biggest reason why debt keeps repeating in Filipino families? Is it low income, family pressure, or lack of financial education? I would really like to know what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching. If this video resonated with you, please consider hitting the subscribe button. I want to be upfront. I use this text-to-speech voice to tell my stories because as a full-time ESL teacher, I have to be very careful with my vocal cords. Managing vocal nodules means I have to save my voice for my students, but I didn't want that to stop me from sharing these unfiltered thoughts with you. I'm Jhonna, and I'm working toward my goal of 1,000 subscribers so I can turn this passion into a sustainable part of my future. This is my diary of solo living here in the Philippines, and your support, whether it's a comment or a sub, really helps me keep this growing. If you'd like to help out even more, there is a buy a treat for my pets link in the description. My dogs definitely appreciate the love. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next update. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey. I'm Jhonna, and I will see you in the next one.